Hello boys and girls, welcome to my channel. I'm the Obscurian Joe PT, and for today what we have in here is the new game mode from CSGO, which is called Danger Zone. So Danger Zone wants to be, and actually it is, a new Battle Royale mode for CSGO. CSGO it is now, unfortunately, free to play. Probably fortunately for many people, but I don't think it is the best decision. And actually it feels like a very desperate decision from Valve, but I think I will talk a little bit about that later. So this is the graphical settings that I do recommend for this system. So I'm using native resolution, median settings, I'm not using MSAA, just FXAA, 4 times anisotropic filtering and no motion blur. So I'm going to start the game and show you the results, because I usually test multiple settings. So I've tried the game with high settings and 2 times multi-sampling anti-aliasing, and I got a disappointment result with an average of 37 and a 1% of 24. So yeah, there were moments where the game was performing under 30 frames per second, which was quite bad. CSGO, it is a game where you really should have more than 60 or even above and beyond 100. But the blackout mode, it is quite demanding to the CPU. And so, despite whatever the settings you go for with this CPU and these graphic cards, whatever if you choose medium, low or ultra low, you don't get anything higher than an average of 50, and sometimes the game can perform at between 30 to 40. So this was a big disappointment to me, and proves out that Source Engine is getting old nowadays and not taking advantage from the hardware. And this is probably where I will start to talk bad things about Valve. I know that many people won't be enjoying listening to this, but this is how I feel about Valve recently. I mean, Valve and Steam for me are my heroes, because it saved PC gaming, and I have almost 400 games on Steam. So yeah, I just pretty much love Steam. But after 2010, 2011, after the release of CSGO, and after they start making money out of boxes and skins and stuff like this, I think Valve really halted a lot their development. We start to saw less games. We start to saw none of the games that we did care about, like a new Half-Life or a new Left 4 Dead. Source Engine, it is not what it is today. For example, Source Engine 1, it is very old, and it is what is actually used in here on CSGO. It is still using DirectX 9, it barely performs throughout the cores, barely balances the core decently. Well, in the case of this CPU, it's not really that bad, but for example, in CPUs with 6 or 12 cores or 8 cores, you can't really accomplish a good scalability, and thus, well, the performance in this game mode really gets a very big penalty. Also, there are moments, for example, where I think that CSGO doesn't have a good Umbra system, which means that the game renders the entire map instead of only rendering what you see. Actual engines, like for example Unreal Engine and Unity, actually do this. Like they only render what you see, and that prevents the CPU from getting fully utilized or getting too much utilization. On CSGO, I think this is not getting used by any means, because sometimes I just get a big bottleneck because I'm looking to a rock, but behind that rock there is a very big scenario. So yeah, the engine is old, it is not as optimized as it should. At the time it was great, but recently, for map sizes like this one, which is considerably more bigger and wide open than the regular maps from CSGO or Half-Life 2, what we get is this engine struggling to get a good performance. And this happens pretty much in all machines. I have a friend of mine which have a desktop i7 with overclock, and the game performs well for him, like for example 270 frames per second, but sometimes it looks to a more detailed part of the scenario and it gets 120. That's not bad, of course, but it's very unbalanced and it's really annoying. So I really think that Source Engine really needs a revision, but I'm pretty sure that it's not going to happen for CSGO or this game mode, because Source Engine 2, what it is used on Dota 2, for example, it lacks a good physics engine, which is AVOC. Source Engine, it is famous because of AVOC, because of its physics, but AVOC doesn't belong to Valve, and so Valve or Steam really needs to pay to AVOC to use that on their games. And I think that Valve didn't want to pay up to AVOC in order to have their physics engine, and so they never used it or ported CSGO, for example, to Source Engine 2. And not only that, because CSGO, it is now a highly competitive game, and if they change anything on physics engine, they might break something, like for example the way that you jump, the way that you walk. And so that is why I believe CSGO never saw a Source Engine 2 release, unfortunately, because I think that the performance would be much better if they used Source Engine 2 with a decent physics. But I do understand why they do this. The only problem is I don't really agree. I think Valve and Steam have been growing to be very greedy. They are kind of not wanting to waste money in games. They just only care about revenue, out of boxes, out of skins, out of microtransactions, out of their that kind of game that they released recently, their artifacts that people are not actually liking. I think Valve and Steam are now a mirage or something. I mean, the ancient Valve and Steam doesn't exist anymore. What I feel like is that Valve and Steam, it's just not anymore what it used to be. It feels more greedy. It feels that they only care about money or smaller games, and they make 30% for each sale of each game, which I think it's abusive. I know that consoles does this, but on PC gaming it doesn't make any sense. And I believe that the reason why we have Origin, why we have Uplay, why we have Windows Store, why we have now Bethesda game launcher, the reason why we have so much launchers nowadays, it is because Steam, it is asking 30% of the, you know, of every revenue that your game makes. So let's pretend that you're going to develop a new game and you want to publish it on Steam. You need to give 30% of your revenue. If your game worth millions of dollars, that is a lot of money to deliver to Steam or to Valve. And I think that is the reason why many launchers have been released. Now Epic Store have exclusive games, because Epic Store only asks for 10% of the budget of the developers, and so many games are now only being released on Epic Games because it's only 10%, while Steam it is 30%. Valve already respond to this stuff. They are now saying that if your game it is too expensive, they only going to ask 25% or 20%, but it's still higher value than what Epic Store asks. So it's quite unfortunate to say this, but I think Valve and Steam really needs to get back. This is have nothing to do related with CSGO. It's just a thing that I wanted to say for a long time. I think Valve really needs to change their habits. Probably it's a little bit too late, but I really think that Valve needs to get back to making decent games and stop being that greedy as it is today. Okay, I know that many don't share this opinion, but this is pretty much the way that I see it, and I feel that Valve it is kind of desperate of putting CSGO free to play. I believe this is because Fortnite is making a huge success, despite I don't care at all about Fortnite. The reality it is that Fortnite it is a huge success and it is free, so having CSGO free, I think that really sounds desperate, because CSGO always had trouble with cheaters, and so now that the game it is free to play, I think probably it is not the best decision in the world. Alright, so guys, think about for staying that long with me, think about for watching, leave your opinion on the comment section of the video. This was way more than the benchmark, but I really wanted to say this and relieve my frustration with Steam and Valve and Gabe Newell. Okay. Oh man, you really need to go on a diet. So guys, thank you a lot for watching, and I do hope to see you soon. Goodbye.